Hello friends and welcome back to the channel. I'm Nick and this is MSFS Flight Plans, your one-stop shop for everything you need for your next sightseeing tour as we explore and learn all about the coolest, best-looking, most interesting spots that the sim has to offer. Today we're in San Antonio, Texas, a place I'm fairly familiar with because I have an aunt who's lived out here for over 50 years and my dad was also living out here for about 10 years. And our departure airport is a little bit to the northwest of town, near a little place called Bernie, which is where I used to stay when I was coming out here because that's where they actually lived. And as always, I will include this exact flight plan along with a handful of add-ons that we're using and the link to our new Discord server in the video description. And on the note of add-ons, almost everything you're going to see in this city doesn't need any add-ons at all. It looks absolutely beautiful out here. The only add-ons we have are for our arrival airport, and I'm still kind of, the jury's out whether or not it improved it all that much. But it doesn't need a lot of help at all. We're going to see some amusement parks, some old quarries, factories, all kinds of great looking stuff. And yes, the CH47D Chinook from Miltech Simulations just came out. I didn't realize it was coming out so soon, and when I saw the first review pop up, I dropped everything, and I've been flying it ever since. Haven't had too many landing practices yet, so we'll see how that goes, but flying this thing is a heck of a lot of fun. And I've drawn out this flight plan to try to be a little bit more considerate of folks that might want to take it in a plane, a slower plane, so I didn't use a lot of really tight turns like we'd usually do with the helicopters. So if you want to try to fly this in a plane using this exact flight plan, you should be okay with it. You might need to spread them out a little bit if you're in a faster plane, but should be all right. And this thing, look at this, just looks absolutely beautiful. I'll tell you about the experience of flying it in just a minute if you haven't already gotten it yet, but it is amazing. Systems depth, everything in here works, literally. I only know how I know how the essential stuff works, but all the ancillary stuff, I haven't even got to really play around with that yet. But I do know how to get it started, and that takes just a couple minutes, so let's go ahead and get that fired up. All right, I got my little checklist here. Okay, so the first thing you have to do is get the FADEC set to 100, which I already did. Turn the battery on and get the APU started. And this thing sounds a lot more like a jet than a helicopter, unless you're turning really hard and you get that nice chopping sound. But with these big jet engines on it, it will sound awfully whiny and loud. I turned the volume down a bit so it's not just ear-piercing. All right, let's go ahead and get our power steering on because you can steer this thing, which is great. Get the APU on. All right, what else we got here? So hydraulic transfer pumps, turn those to on. And we got to get the backup FADEC power, that's already on, so that's good. And while that's going, let's go ahead and get these going. Our main fuel pumps, crossfeed's already open. We got to get these fan doors open, so that's good. And with that, I think we're ready to go ahead and get the first engine started up here. And while that's going on, let's go ahead and get our transponder set up. Which, good, it's already on 2. So it doesn't have an altitude setting, it just has a standby and normal, which I'm guessing is what we'd usually use for the altitude setting. I didn't get any calls from ATC yelling at me, so I think we're probably okay. Alright, back up here to this thing. Once that ramps itself up, you can tell how loud those turbines are getting. We'll get that set to flight, and then get the next one going, and then I'll pull over the Google Maps so we can take a look at where we're heading. And this thing looks incredible at night, too. We're not going to turn the lights off here. I did a lot of flights around Vegas. Really wanted to do a video out there, but everybody's done a video of Vegas at night, but it looked really cool in this thing. I got that Fly Tampa pack, which is just incredible. Alright, I just don't want to start engine 2 until that one sounds like it's ramped up, and it sounds like it is now. Okay, so we'll get this set to ground setting, start engine 2. Alright, so while that's going on, let's go ahead and look at the Google map real quick. So here's San Antonio, deep in the heart of Texas. And as we zoom in, here's where we're starting from, Bernie right up here, and this little airport is right here on the southern end of town, southwestern end of town. So we're going to cruise down Interstate 10 here, come right around here, check out a Six Flags, if you can believe that, and then a SeaWorld. We got 2 big amusement parks over here, then come through the center of town, fly over that, look at the Alamo, of course. Hear how loud that's getting. And then come down south, check out a couple more missions, a little old airport, come back up around the north side of town, come by the main airport that they got now, cruise over here, and we are going to land at a big Air Force base they have out in this vicinity here. So that's where we're going. All right, get that to flight setting, other generator on, and now we turn the APU off. And let me just check everything else. I think we're in pretty good shape. Turn all the rest of the fuel switches on. Alright. Alright, so we're actually going to be able to taxi in this thing. How cool is that? Yeah, let's turn our parking brake off. So to get it to taxi, you just have to give it a little bit of collective to give it some thrust, and then just pitch that stick forward. And you can just steer with your rudder pedals. It even has brakes too, which is great. And I'm going to try not to hit the buildings with these huge rotors on top of this thing. One thing that immediately jumped out at me with this one is that it doesn't really... I mean, it'll lean, it'll roll in other words, but not like a regular helicopter. This thing is big and heavy, and it feels a lot more like you're drifting in a car. It just kind of slides everywhere, which is definitely unique as far as flying helicopters go, which I like a lot. Very cool. And it has a nice unique sound to it. You can hear those engines just so loud. If I turn them down too much more, I couldn't hear the rotors up on top, and I like that sound too, so I didn't want to turn that all the way down. Alright, pitch it forward a little bit more. Try not to hit any of these runway lights. There were some add-ons for this airport too, but it required installing like 5 asset packs, and each of those was like a megabyte each, or a gigabyte each, and I wasn't about to do that, so it looked good enough as it is. Especially for the very short amount of time we'll be looking at it. Alright, once we get turned around, I'm just going to stop real quick and get my little NavMap set up to the left. And you could pretty much VFR fly this, especially if you're familiar with this area at all. But I just want to make sure we don't miss any of our bookmarks. Alright, you guys ready? Let's do it! Giving it some more collective. And away we go. So this airport is called Boerne Stage Field, which again is very close to the town of Boerne. Hold on, let me adjust my mic a little bit. I feel like I'm kind of having to shout into it. That's a little bit better. And if you've ever been to San Antonio and didn't get to visit this area, which is probably a 30-minute drive outside of town, then unfortunately you missed a real slice of German heaven out here. The town was formed by a group of German immigrants in the 1840s known as 48ers. But they weren't searching for gold, they were part of some major revolutions going on in Germany in 1948 and 49. And they referred to themselves as Latin freethinkers, searching for a community where they could bathe in conversations about all the most interesting subjects one could conjure, which sounds like a good enough reason to move out here in the middle of nowhere to me. Alright, so we're going to come over this way and catch up with Interstate 10. And yes, it's the same Interstate 10 that ends in Jacksonville, or maybe starts in Jacksonville, depending which way you're going. It goes all the way out to LA. We've seen both ends of this thing on recent flights. And if you do make it out to Boerne, you can enjoy their vintage Main Street, which looks a lot like it probably did in the 1800s, complete with all kinds of antique shops and some of the best barbecue and smoked sausage you'll ever sink your teeth into. Alright, here comes Interstate 10. I think pretty much everything we're going to be flying over, maybe except for out here because that looks like autogen stuff, but once we get closer to town it's all going to be photogrammetry. Alright, just pitch it down a little bit. Don't need to climb much higher. So our first landmark is going to be another Six Flags, and this one's called Six Flags Fiesta Texas. One of 2 currently operating in the state of Texas, and they had one out in Houston for a while, and they may still have a water park out there, but it looked like from Wikipedia that they closed the big theme park out there for some reason. And this one does not look nearly as good as that one we saw north of LA. In fact, I don't think we've ever seen another one that looked that good anywhere. Any theme park, not just a Six Flags. But it's not terrible either. And it was originally just called Fiesta Texas when it opened in 1992, becoming a full-blown Six Flags when Time Warner took over in 1996. And before it was either of those things, it was an old limestone mine. And you'll definitely be able to tell that that's what it was once we get out here, because it's tucked right down inside of it. And incredibly, despite coming out here to Boerne more times than I can even remember, I never visited this place. Alright, so you see this ledge right here? This is the outer wall of the limestone mine. But this is Interstate 10 here, and I always remember looking off to the left winsomely, thinking, man, I'd like to go there, but I couldn't drive at the time, so I was at the mercy of whoever was driving me. And man, they have got open pit mines all over the place out here, and all of them look really nice. Really, really nice. Alright, let's see how close we can get this thing. Okay, yep, it appears we're in the photogrammetry area now because I can see all the little cars and everything have relief to them. Look how big that parking lot is. It's as big as the whole park itself. And their big pool right there, see in the corner? It's the shape of the state of Texas. Let's see if we can fly over that and get to look at it. And unfortunately, there's a lot of structural supports in these windows, so it's going to block some of our view. See that? Can you tell it's Texas? Now you can. Well, those cars do look a little flat, but that does not appear to be photogrammetry, or does not appear to be AI stuff. Yeah, that's nothing like that one north of LA, but you can definitely tell it is a theme park. But those cars do seem to have some relief, so maybe we just crossed over the threshold. Beautiful area. And if you keep going west on I-10 from back near where we started, you'll see the terrain will abruptly change as you enter what is known as the Texas Hill Country, which looks exactly like you'd probably imagine in the old cowboy and Indian movies if you've ever seen those old ones, or even modern ones for that matter. And the next town you'd come across is Comfort, which you might like even more than Bernie if you're into little places frozen in time. I think they got a population of less than 10,000 out there. And then Kerrville's after that, which is up by the headwaters of the Guadalupe River. And just some breathtakingly beautiful natural landscape. I had a great uncle who was a Presbyterian minister out there. We used to go out there and visit them. They had a little cabin up on the river. They got all kinds of little kids' camps and stuff up there. Just incredible. All right, we're heading down towards SeaWorld now, and I'm just flying over here by this mine because it looks incredible. And we're going to see a natatorium complex. And if you don't know what that means, don't feel bad, I didn't either, but you'll need to check out our Pearl Harbor flight to find out. Look at this thing. Looks like they probably got some schools down there. Look at that. I just love mines. I don't look at all the school buses down there. Man, that must be like the city's bus depot. That's a lot of school buses. Look at all the machinery and everything they got. Awesome. Absolutely awesome. You have to use a lot of anti-torque pedals in this thing because if you just lean it to the side, it just leans to the side unless you really turn into it. Which I also kind of like. Every little extra elemental challenge I enjoy. And man, when I used to start, when I was first coming out here back in the early 80s, there was just nothing out here anywhere. San Antonio was much, much smaller. This place has really grown up a lot. You can tell all these subdivisions out here look fairly new. Part of that 2000s housing boom. Alright, so I think that this road here is called 310 maybe? It's not an interstate. I think 410 is the main one that goes around the inner circle of the city. And once we get up to this little split off here, then SeaWorld should be directly ahead to our right. And this place opened in 1988, and I didn't even know this was out here. So obviously I'd never been here either. So it was out here while I was visiting, but never came out to check it out. And it was built by Houghton Mifflin, which is that same company that published your social studies textbook. We sold it to Anheuser-Busch a year after it opened, and those guys sold it to a private equity group in 2009. And then those guys sold it to the Chinese in 2017. I'm not kidding about that. And I read that this place, and maybe all of the SeaWorlds, has decided that they are not going to have any more orcas once their current crop dies out. I think they got a little bad press back there about a decade ago, and that was the end of all that. I don't even know if they do shows with them anymore. So here it is right down here to our right. And I did see a whole bunch of amusement parks in this one, not like, or amusement park rides anyway, not like that one in Orlando. Oh, that kind of looks like a lazy river and a wave pool, so maybe they have a water park, but I don't see any coasters. I see some water slides. Yep, I'm just seeing water slides, so maybe they don't have any roller coasters out there. Alright, so there's a main thoroughfare I'm going to try to pick up here is our VFR marker that'll bring us into downtown. We got to go up just a little bit farther here. I'll tell you something about the history of San Antonio. Alright, there's the main road we gotta take. And there's downtown. So we got about 10 miles till we get there, which will give me just enough time to fill you in. Outside of a very ancient human history going back more than 10,000 years at least, its slightly more modern story started with a Spanish mission out here in 1718, eventually becoming the first chartered settlement that would become Texas. And that settlement was founded in 1731. And the city has preserved 5 of those original Spanish missions. One of those is the Alamo, and we'll hopefully spot 2 more, maybe even 3, a little bit south of downtown. Alright, so let's come down a little bit. Oh, we are descending. And this thing is really hard to get stabilized too. I'm having to work the cyclic quite a bit on here. But because it's so heavy, it turns nice and easy, as you can see there. But you have to give it a little bit more input than you would with some of the lighter helicopters. It didn't take long for San Antonio to become the largest Spanish and later Mexican settlement in the territory of Tejas, eventually becoming the capital of the territory. And the American settlers out here were having absolutely none of that, with armed skirmishes constantly flaring up with Mexican troops led by the brother-in-law of notorious Mexican President Antonio de Padua Maria Severino Lopez de Santa Ana y Perez y Lebrón. But his friends just called him Santa Anna. And all that came to a head at the Battle of the Alamo in 1836 when Santa Anna's army sacked the place, killing roughly 140 people inside, which was everyone inside. Alright, here's the road I want to take over here. It sounds funny saying that. Let's just get lined up with that. But the Americans were having none of that either, so they came back down and laid waste to Santa Anna and his army in the Battle of San Jacinto a month later. And when the Texans finally captured the long-named leader, he was hiding in a marsh wearing a private's uniform. Kind of like our old friend from Iraq. And shortly after that, Texas gained its independence from Mexico. And see that water tower over there? They have water towers everywhere out here. Water towers are synonymous with Texas. Alright, so let's keep coming down a little more, and just to brace you for it, the Alamo is not going to look like you're probably imagining if you've only seen it in movies and postcards. It is buried under a bunch of trees in the middle of downtown, and having been there several times, I can tell you the lore is much more exciting than being there in person. And that big tower sticking up over there just to the right of that big white thing, which of course is a convention center, is called the Tower of the Americas. They built that in 1968 as part of a World's Fair, and I also didn't realize they were still having World's Fairs in the 1960s. But that thing is 750 feet high and was the tallest observation tower in the US until they built the Stratosphere in Vegas in 1996. Alright, let's trim down just a hair. I'm flying with my left hand now, guys. You know what that means. Alright, so the Alamo is going to be right down here in this little green spot. And, as I said before, you're not going to see anything. Which is about what it looks like from the ground. I don't know if they just photoshopped the other buildings out or what, but all the pictures of it I've ever seen, you'd think it's sitting out in the middle of a big field somewhere. We'll see it out of this little window down here, because all those bars are going to get in the way. If we can see anything at all. You got to get just the perfect angle on this thing. Alright, Alamo. That's it. Nope, that's not it. It's... Can you see it at all? It's right there. That's the Alamo. My mouse didn't even like it. It gave me the blue wheel of death when I hovered over it. So there's the Alamo Dome. They built that thing hoping they would attract a national football team out here, which they never did, although the Spurs did play in it for a while before moving out in that direction. Can we see it? We're not going to fly over to where they're playing now. It's right there. That's where they play now. So now they're using that place for Bush League football, which is American League football or whatever they call that. But they built that place in 1993. Alright, we're going to catch up with the San Antonio River here as it runs south through an area called Missions Park, and we'll hopefully be able to spot a few of the old missions. And then we'll see over here is Stinson Municipal Airport. I'll tell you about that in just a second. But first, let's find the river. There it is over there. So here's the river running through here, and then we're going to follow it back up into town. And none of these missions are really big. For 2 of them at least, the only thing you'll really be able to see is the outer retaining wall. It's not even a retaining wall, it's just a perimeter wall. And most of these were built right around the beginning of this whole city popping up, very early 1700s. And most of the original ones have collapsed, and what you're seeing now, if it's not completely in ruins without a roof and everything, is some slightly refurbished buildings. Although in 2012 they did refurbish this one, which is the Mission San Juan, the first one that we're going to see out here. Okay, man, this whole area is under a shadow, which is kind of a bummer. That airport there is the oldest continuously running general aviation airport in the country. Ooh, look at that. They got a little refinery or something. See the smoke coming off the top of it? Or the flame? See it down there? That's cool. Alright, the mission is going to be right here, and it's in a shadow, which is going to make it really hard to see, unfortunately. But we'll see what we can see. They opened that airport in 1915, so it's been around for a while. Alright, the mission is right there. That's it. And then there's kind of a little outer wall around it, but it doesn't look like much from up here. But there is some historical significance to that airport, so I figured we'd fly over here and check it out. There was a big add-on for that too, and when I put all the stuff in, it jacked the whole area up. It looked way worse than that. It got rid of all the terrain. It just made it gray out here, so it looks way better now than with the add-ons. This thing here is a big police training area. They got a little track and everything, and I forgot to mention it, but I'll show you on the satellite map at the end. They got a fire department training area too, on that main drag that we were coming east on as we're heading into downtown. Alright, so I just need to skirt the other side of this runway, and yes, we are violating all kinds of airspace, but we're in a Chinook. What are they going to do? So I'm just giving it the right pedal right now. Look, it's just pivoting. Don't really even need to lean it at all. Alright, I'm going to see how low we can get, because this next mission is an in-sim POI, and it does look pretty good if we can get close enough to see it. And the main thing that you'll see first is the big outer retaining wall. I keep calling it a retaining wall. It's not a retaining wall. A perimeter wall of some kind. Alright, we got a little ways to go. I just glanced at a little nav map. We might get a few freezes. You probably saw a little stutter there. Just because this area looks so good, which I'll definitely take if it looks this good. And I don't have our graphics turned way down. Okay, so here's the outer wall. And then the existing church, which was rebuilt in 1763, is going to be right down here, which looks like it just popped a little bit. And I think we're going to have to see it through this little window again. Yep, see it right there? Okay, so let's get back over here, follow the river back up through town. And if you go through downtown San Antonio in real life, the area where the river runs down there is called the Riverwalk. Absolutely beautiful. Definitely a big tourist attraction. Alright, this place is going to be harder to spot. This is going to be it right here. We'll see what we can see. Not much. That's it right there. Now you can kind of see the little towers on there. Sorry, I keep leaning away from the mic, so I'm trying to turn my head. That's it right there. See that? Very cool. Alright, from this side of the city, we're going to see something that looks kind of interesting. It's a big building that's an assembly hall for... Ooh, look at that church. Is that a church? Oh no, there's just a big tower next to it. But it's got a big flower on the top of it. And the area it's in is called La Villita, which is a little historic district. And I'm guessing you could get an incredible tamale down there. And here's the thing with the flower on top of it. We'll get a nice look at that. We should be able to see that pretty well. Man, that is just always right in the way, that bar there. Look at that. See that? Pretty cool. This whole area is La Villita right here. And it's been a long time since I've been to downtown San Antonio. Alright, how are we tracking? I need to come out this way just a little bit. Next we'll see the campus of Trinity University as we head up towards San Antonio International, and this is going to be it right here. And over here is where their zoo is, but we're not going to cruise over there because we get a little bit off course and it doesn't look all that great. And our next landmark looks far better anyway. But this is a private school. They got about 2,700 students, and that's a pretty big campus for only 2,700 students. And that's their big stadium over there, Bobcat Stadium. More water towers everywhere. Alright, this next place is called the Quarry, which used to be an old pit mine and a cement plant that they've turned into a lifestyle center, whatever that is. But they built a big golf course down in it, inside the mine, and they turned the factory into a bunch of shops and restaurants and movie theaters, which not only looks cool, as you're about to see, but is cool. And I'm not sure when they did that, but I don't ever remember seeing that, because this is the road we'd come down coming from the airport. Man, and it's probably been 15 years since I've been out here. But there's the old mine. And this thing here, which actually has a pretty neat looking facade that you can see pretty well in the sim, is the movie theater. And then here's the old factory was. And this kind of reminds me of that Black Diamond golf course that we saw in our Deep South tour of one of my other hometowns. Look at that. Very cool. And along with water towers, high school football is a big deal here. Let's see if we can see the movie theater. Pretty cool. Alright, so here's San Antonio International, the big airport. They started building that in 1941. And if you've seen any of our other North American flights, you know what happened to that place over the ensuing years. And of course, after the war, they gave it back over to the city, where it became the main airport. I don't know which one. There's a couple other reasonably sized airports out here, so I don't know what they were using before that. And we're flying up here because I want to take another look at this, and I think this is still an active cement plant, which just looks incredible. It's so well detailed, and I just couldn't pass it up. But right here on the corner, there's something called the Texas Transportation Museum. And they opened that thing downtown originally in 1964, but moved up here in 67. And I think they have a bunch of active steam engines and stuff you can take rides on. And an Easter egg hunt, they said on their website. But it doesn't look like much from here. Kind of looks like a junkyard, to be honest with you. But this cement plant looks amazing. Is that more buses? It is. Man, they got more buses out here you can shake a stick at. But everything's kind of far away out here in the plains of Texas. So there's the museum. Let's see if we can get in that little window and see if we can spot any trains down there. Well, you see a couple of them. Alright, look at this place. Look how detailed that is. Unbelievable. So good. I mean, even the little rocks down here by the water. Ooh, I wonder what they got down there sitting in the water. Looks like just little piles of dirt. Man, and if you're going to play on the cement plant baseball league, no grass on your field. That's how they roll out here. Look at that. Alright, so right up here they have built a big high school sports complex. Not for any particular high school, but just for the local high schools when they want to have a big event. And they got a soccer field and some other stuff out here. Another cement plant. Look at that. So there's the big stadium. And then they got a soccer field over here too. And this place over here is called Morgan's Wonderland. And that was opened up by a guy who made a lot of money here in San Antonio. And it's a theme park for folks with special needs. Which I thought was pretty cool. Beautiful. Alright, so now we're going to set up for our approach to Randolph Air Force Base, which looks like no other base we've encountered so far on this channel. Mainly because it's stunningly beautiful. In fact, they call it the showplace of the Air Force because it is so uniquely pleasing to the eye. And they opened this place in 1930 and is served mostly as a training base for the Air Force. But what you're going to see is on each side of it are the two big runways, and then right in the middle of it, they've kind of built up where the base is in the town. But it doesn't look drab and boring like a lot of military bases do. It's got that colonial Spanish style with all the architecture. Just looks incredible. And towards this end of it, there's something called Building 100, which they call the Taj Mahal because they have built into the architecture of that a big water tower. So we'll see if we can spot that. Okay, it looks like we're still with the photogrammetry now, and I can't recall noticing well enough if the air base is, so we'll check that out too. So I think there's a helicopter landing pad down at the end of, well, what looks like a landing pad anyway, down at the other end of that runway on the left. So that's what we're going to shoot for. And we'll see how I do landing this thing. The nice thing about this is you can do a rolling landing if you can actually get lined up with a runway, which I have not been able to successfully do yet. Alright, so let's drop that collective. Slow down because we're still cooking. See how good of a look at the space we can get. Well, that's still photogrammetry down there. And looks really good. Another water tower off in the distance. I can't point to anything now because I'm using both my hands. We gotta slow way down. Alright, so let's look for something sticking way up in the air. Oh no, see those two tanks over there, or whatever they are? Those are flat, so we might... Yep, those buildings look auto-gen. So maybe we won't see the Taj Mahal. Well, let's just see what's sticking up in the air. Look at that, they got a big golf course at the other end. Maybe we'll go circle around. And I do have the springtime setting on. You see all the blooms coming out on those trees down there? Yeah, I'm not seeing anything sticking way up. There's a water tower, just on the other side of that circular thing. And a swimming pool right in the center of town. Boy, I would hate to live out here if I was on a base. Man, no wonder all the other branches hate these guys. Think they're a bunch of prima donnas living out here. Well, that looks like a water tower over on the other side, but that doesn't look like the pictures I saw, if that's what that is. Alright, so there's what I think is our helipad, so let's keep on slowing down. Might have to do a little lap around here. And I'm afraid I'm going to lose sight of that because that console is pretty big. We'll just keep it in that corner for now. There's our golf course. Alright, let's kind of just come this way a little bit. The tower looks good. And when we're done, we'll check out everything on little NavMap. Ooh, if I can land on that thing, I can just drive up in there. This thing hovers really well, quite nicely. Come over here just a little bit. Look at that. So nice and easy. Well, that wasn't too bad at all. Yeah, I tried landing on a runway, I just couldn't get it really lined up well. Which is fine. Alright, let's at least pull up into the pad here. Ooh, it does not like what I'm doing. Look how much it's jerking around. Alright, this is probably good enough. Let's go ahead and hit the brakes. Put the parking brakes on, and let me just get her shut down real quick, just to knock all that noise off, and then we'll take a look at the map. Okay, so we'll get both of these to the stop setting. Come on, get over there. Oh my gosh, that's significantly quieter. And we'll go ahead and get our APU running. And I guess we need to leave the fuel on, so we'll do that. Keep our generators on. What else should probably turn off? Everything else could probably just stay on. Go ahead and turn the APU on. Okay, let's take a look at little NavMap. Gosh, that's a lot quieter. Man, oh man. Okay, so here's where we left from. And the town of Bernie is up in this area right here. So we were a little bit south of Bernie, and here's 10 running all the way down through here. Jacksonville to LA. And then we caught up with 10 over here, and then here's that Six Flags. Look at that. Look just like that, with the exception of the roller coasters being filled in. But yeah, that parking lot is as big as the whole place. And there's the pool, the Texas pool. That's awesome. That is just fantastic. Man, Texans are just so proud. Especially this part of Texas. They got a lot of rides in there, though, don't they? Man, lots of rides. Look at that thing. Holy crap. Look at that. Man, that makes me want to throw up just looking at that thing. Oh my gosh. Oh, I wonder what that's called. The vomiter. All right, and here was the area where the Natatorium was, and the big mine that we saw, and I'm looking for that area where, I'll just tell you what they are. Natatoriums are pools. I can't help myself. I have to brag about knowing a fancy word. I can't figure out where this... Oh, here it is. It's over here. So this is a high school, middle school, and then there's the pool complex there. We had flown over it. We didn't get to see it. It was out the other side. Then we cruise down here to SeaWorld. Let's check this baby out and see if they got any roller coasters or not. We're a little bit pixelated. I see a lot of water slides. Once that resolution clears up, I don't know why it's taking so long. That's a water slide. Looks like a water slide there. That might be a rapids ride. No, these are all water slides. So I guess they just have a water park out here. Then we come in here, and here's that fire academy, which looks kind of like the police training course. And you can even see a couple little fire trucks that they have down there, which is kind of neat. So if you're VFR flying this, just follow this winding road over here, and it'll get you pointed on the road that you want to follow into downtown. And then that road is going to kind of dead end here, but just keep going in that heading, and then you'll come upon where the Alamo is. And that's it right there. There's the Alamo. And you would never guess that's what it looks like in real life if you'd seen all the pictures and postcards and movies and all that stuff, but it's really just buried down in there now. So there's the Tower of the Americas, which doesn't look like much from the top, but you can definitely see it coming from the side. And there's the Alamo Dome. I wonder how much money they're losing on that place since they never got their professional football team in there. And then here's the San Antonio River coming down here, and here's the first mission that we came across, which looked just like that. I mean, which wasn't much to see, but there's that outer wall, and then there's the mission itself. And then here's Stinson Municipal over here. There's where that police training academy was. And our next mission, which was the easiest to spot one because you can really see that outer wall quite well. And this one is modeled well if you get close enough to look at it. And you know what? It looks like this one behind it might still be in ruins. I don't know why that pixelation is taking so long to resolve itself, but that looked really good in the sim. But that there appears to be in ruins still. But they have pictures of the inside of this church, and they got, you know, it's all, looks like it's even air conditioned. Got pews and everything in there. And then we came up here to the next mission, which was this little place right here. Kind of hard to spot that one. But that's the best looking one of all of them. I guess they built that on some pretty solid ground and used some more sturdy materials, so they haven't had to renovate that one too much. That one back there, the San Juan, or whatever that was called, San Jose. This one looks like a brand new church because they whitewashed it and everything. Yeah, the San Juan. So that one, I kind of wish they left it looking like ruins because I think it looked cooler, but that's just my opinion. And then here's that little place with a flower on the top of it. Look at that. So that's La Vallita. Look at this. You can just tell. You can tell they got some great authentic cuisine down there. And there's the river running through town there, where the river walk and all that is. Just a beautiful, beautiful little stroll. Lots of movies made down there. Okay, so here's where the campus of Trinity is, which again is a pretty big campus for just 2,700 students, and that's a really big stadium for 2,700. That might even be bigger than our local university, which is like 30,000. That's really big. And then we came up here by the Quarry, which looked fantastic. Really, really good. Real nice. I don't know why I'm so pleased that they did the front of that movie theater like that. And by the way, someone had sent me an email about, I made a comment in our last flight over Volsice, which you haven't seen, if you haven't seen it yet, out in Slovakia, wondering how they get the stuff on the front of buildings from photogrammetry, because I thought they made photogrammetry from satellites. Turns out they do that with airplanes flying around, so that's how they see the side of that stuff, and that's why it's so much more detailed. Although these are pretty detailed for satellite images. And here's the Transportation Museum here. Also look just like that. Man, even it looks like they got the exact same trains out there. Boy, if you're going to take a train ride, you're not going very far, are you? I wonder how they even got them out here. They must have just torn up the tracks after they put them out there, because it looks like that's about it, unless it just comes around here, but it doesn't look like it does it? And then we came out to the old cement plant. That was incredible. That might have been my favorite thing. And there's their filthy baseball fields. Boy, they got quite a few of them, don't they? And then we came over here. These are the big stadiums the high schools are using, and look at that. Boy, that wouldn't be bad for a high school game, huh? It's nice that they did that for a big city, where when you're playing your regionals and all that, everybody can come together in one big spot that's a neutral turf. The soccer stadium, and there's Morgan's Wonderland, the special needs park. And I don't see any roller coasters that look like that little squirrel's nest that we saw back at Six Flags. I can't even imagine riding something like that thing. Good grief, I'll have to look into that, see what they called that thing. And then we came in here for our landing. So let's just see if we can spot the old Taj Mahal. So there's the golf course. There's the big pool. We saw that. This looked good. I flew over that before, and it looks just like that. That must be where the Taj Mahal is, but I was looking at that thing, and it is flat on the top. There's nothing on it, so that must be the water tower. I'm guessing. If you've been out here before, and I know quite a few of you have been to a lot of bases, let me know if that's it. And you can see they've even got Morgan Field written on there. Ooh, man, they even got some planes out here, too. Of course they do. It's an Air Force base. So they got some there, and I thought I saw when we were coming in a bigger one out here. Yeah, there it is right there. Very interesting. And then we came into something that I called a helicopter pad, which kind of looks like one. So that's it, guys. That's San Antonio. I may take a trip up to Austin. I want to see how the area around Lake Austin looks, because I've been up there quite a bit, too. And since everyone in the world seems to be moving to Austin, now they've stopped moving to Florida, maybe we need to check that out, too. But that's San Antonio. Had an absolute blast once again, despite being out here so many times. Learned a lot. In fact, I didn't even know there was a huge theme park out here that I probably should have gone to when I was a kid, but whatever. I'm too old for that stuff now. But if you want to see an orca, now may be the time to do it. Can't wait to see you guys again in the sky. Next flight, by the way, I did get some feedback from one of our members on our Discord server. It does appear that there is a systemic problem in Lisbon, so we're probably not going to do that Portugal flight until someone at Asobo can figure out what's going on out there. But I've got plenty other places in store, and I got to still check out that island off the eastern coast of Spain, so maybe we'll head out there. But whatever we do, you can count on it being an absolute blast, and I can't wait to see you all again in the skies. Later.